Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2021 MyTeam career mode. But this is not any old episode. This is the final ever episode on this game and of this series. Yep, this is episode number 120. It is lovely to end off on a nice even round number. It's the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix Season 7 and our last ever episode, and to commemorate that, like we did on F1 2020, we have got a one-off spliced livery, which on one half has our current livery, which is the livery we've ran for all of Season 7, and then those of you who've stuck around since the very beginning, last year in July or the end of June, the other half is the very original first livery I started this series with. A very basic livery, very different to the one we've got and ended with for most of this season. But it's a nice little nod to where we began this series on one half of the car, and then we're ending it with the current livery as well on the other half. And we've got a real treat to end off the entire series and say goodbye to F1 2021, because this is the first season, I think, out of all 7 that we've had 5 championship contenders who are mathematically and still have a very actual good chance of winning this Drivers' Championship. The Constructors has been wrapped up. We won that last episode, actually, so we have won in total 5 Constructors' Championships on this game. Just kind of proving, to be honest, more than anything, how strong the AI and your teammate is now these days on the game, because we've had some absolutely amazing teammates who've pulled their weight. They've scored so many points for us, as a team owner, very happy to see that. And in some instances, they've pushed us quite a bit right to the edge, namely George Russell as of late. And of course, this season, Pierre Gasly, as things have boiled over a little bit here and there. But, the teammates have been very, very strong on this year's game and have enabled us to win 5 Constructors. But can we try and win only our 3rd Drivers' Championship? Probably the lowest number of Drivers' Championships I've ever won in a whole game cycle from start to finish, really. In that kind of aspect, you've got to say it's probably been the most challenging game to date we've had versus the AI, and kind of a testament to how much improved they have become every single game. Because, we've only got 2 titles to our name so far individually. We've lost a couple in some very, very harsh ways, especially last season with the engine failure at this very place at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So we come here once again and another season finale, battling Antonio Giovinazzi, but others as well, Leclerc, Verstappen, and our teammate Gasly, and we're looking for redemption. We're looking to make things right, and hopefully our Honda engine will hold out in a different way to the way the Porsche engine failed us so spectacularly at the end of last season in Season 6. And the way we've got here to this point has been quite a topsy-turvy season. Started off with, if you've maybe forgotten, Guan Yu Zhou, of all people, winning in the Williams Jaguar. Then came Lando Norris, the one-time world champion in this alternate F1 universe, winning the 2nd race. Then the reigning world champion into this season, Antonio Giovinazzi, having won last season in, well, that very tragic finale, like I said. Leclerc finally actually broke his duck of winning and actually finishing at Monaco there with the win around the Principality. Then Pierre Gasly came with a win at Azerbaijan. And at this point in the season, I had to question what was going on, because Gasly just kept on beating us in the races, forgetting about us beating him in qualifying consistently, and he went on to win a 2nd race back-to-back. Then George Russell, our former teammate, won in an amazing way at the Austrian Grand Prix in the slow Aston Martin. We then finally got our first win of the season at the home GP at Silverstone. Tsunoda took the Hungarian Grand Prix in a race where myself and Gasly crashed into one another and had a double DNF for the team. Giovinazzi then capping off a dramatic win around Spa, overtaking Hamilton in the last sector. Verstappen, his first win in a long while, and the first win for Ford Performance GP in Formula 1. Then a dominant display at the Singapore Grand Prix from Pierre Gasly in first place, from Verstappen in second. Saw Verstappen and Gasly really shine in the championship. Ocon won the Mexican Grand Prix in a race where every title contender pretty much had front wings off issues in the race. Leclerc then with a big big win at Brazil, whilst all of us scored low points, and in my case, no points. Hamilton then with the win in the last race at the Australian sprint race, and of course a controversial one with that issue with Leclerc in qualifying then to the race, which means going into this one then, Leclerc, as you've seen, leads the way by only 4 points though to myself in second place. 1 point back is our rival from last season, the reigning champion Antonio Giovinazzi. Then the further few points then to Verstappen and Gasly. Well, with an engine failure last episode, he's the outside man in this championship, but he's still mathematically very much capable of winning this thing. But it's going to have to take some absolute miracle for him, I must say. But he's still in there, so it is a 5-way fight going into Jeddah. And this is going to be a real spicy one. You know, on the game, just like in real life, this race is, well, very chaotic. And on the game, there's actually so much overtaking. It is ridiculous. The slipstream is even more powerful than maybe it's Spa or Monza in many aspects because of how quick the circuit is really when it comes to race day. And yeah, the tension's high, but I'm also gonna kind of try and soak this up as well because this is, yeah, the last episode, the last time I'm gonna drive on F1 2021 with this handling model. You know, next year's game, F1 22, is a very different kettle of fish when it comes to the handling model because of the new era, the new regulations, the new tyres, and also generally the way the new game is with the physics model. So, yeah, just soaking up the last bits of this supremely amazing maxed out car we've been driving for the last couple of seasons. You know, it's been thrilling. You know, the races have been very, very exciting because all the cars are, you know, almost maxed out, and then now they are very much maxed out. And these AI, you know, Verstappen, Leclerc, Gio, even Hamilton, you know, Drogovic along the way, you know, all these AI over 90 rated, so many of them are, and it's you know, been something to behold in many of these races with the action we've got. So yeah, I'm going to stop getting a little bit emotional in qualifying. I'm going to get into the business here in Q2 as we want to try and get through into the top 10 shootout, of course. And you may have seen as we've been going on with these clips, the split, the splice livery on the right, the old school livery we started off this series with, and on the left, the one we've had for most of this season, although I have changed the halo a little bit. You'll see it's in black rather than the white, just to kind of match and merge a little bit more with the rest of the car. But no matter the livery of this car, this thing has been a beast this season, and we're looking to shoot ourselves up into the top 10. Very closely matched so far with our teammate Gasly, which is nice to see, a nice way to end off. But Hamilton, right up there, having won the last race, he truly maybe, right at the end of this game series, is finally back to his very best, maybe, from how he was in Season 1, and kind of, I guess you could say, somewhat Season 2 as well. But Giovinazzi, Verstappen, Leclerc showing why we are all here going into this final race as championship contenders. The consistency has been insane, especially, I must say, in the last couple of episodes. Like, consistently, all 5 of us have been there in the top 6 spots, and then you kind of had Hamilton in there, sometimes Russell, you know, so you can see why we're here, all of us, in the title fight. But this first run in the top 10 shootout is not as great as I was hoping for there. We're about 4.5 tenths down from the provisional pole time of Verstappen. He's pulled out of the bag alongside Giovinazzi, the reigning champ, on the front row. Hamilton up in third, though, showing the Ford is working well, but Hamilton himself is performing well. Leclerc, the championship leader, though, in P4 ahead of us. Then Gasly fifth with Lundgaard in 6th. So we are going to go again, and actually peculiarly, not a lot of other people went again. I think I am out, and I think one of the McLarens is out on his lap. No one else opted for a second lap. I don't know why that is. I don't know if they used their tyres in Q1 and Q2 and I just didn't see that. So we've got a free track then to try and improve. So first sector was red. We didn't improve that much, but you can see here I understeered quite a fair amount in that banked corner on the first run. So that gains us about a tenth or more. And then into the final sector, we're up 2.8 tenths there, getting nearly to 3 tenths. And then the final corner, we're going to go so much later on the brakes, try and get that tighter entry and just attack the corner a little bit more than I did on the first run, taking it maybe cautiously. Gains us a little bit more time, 4 tenths up just about across the line, and that's not going to be enough for pole position, but it will be enough for the front row in this final ever ever race there alongside Max Verstappen in the Ford. Giovinazzi sharing the second row alongside Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc and Gasly share the third row. So it is all to play for. We are 4 points behind Leclerc. We're 1 point ahead of Giovinazzi. Verstappen, who has a lot of points to gain, has done the job of what he needs to do on Saturday and got pole. So we've got a lot of different dynamics going on here and a lot of different variables and permutations in play for this Drivers' World Championship. Let's go to the grid for our final race. This is it.
So here we are then, welcoming you today to one of the jewels of the Arab world, Jeddah. One of the biggest cities in Saudi Arabia, second only to Riyadh, gateway to Mecca, and one of the biggest ports in the region. And now, host to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. An interesting circuit this one, the newest on the Formula One calendar, and like most street circuits, it's sure to present the drivers with an interesting technical challenge. Some challenging turns for the drivers to negotiate as well, and at the same time they're going to have to manage their tyres very carefully in this heat. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here today, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
But from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn one. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you, so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he starts from pole position, and the owner driver alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Giovinazzi, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Gasly, Lundgaard, Russell, Norris and Yuki Tsunoda, Ocon, Bottas, Mick Schumacher and Stroll, Sainz, Drugovic, Callum Ilott and Guan Yu Zhou, Tigtum, Aitken, Armstrong and Nobuharu Matsushita. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
It's time for the final ever MyTeam career mode race on this game, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and thankfully there are no penalties to talk about. It's going to be a fair fight. We're all going to start from where we qualified. Verstappen on pole, myself alongside him in second place. Then we've got Giovinazzi, Hamilton, and then Leclerc and Pierre Gasly. As I said before in qualifying, the end of it, there are many permutations in terms of the strategy. It will be quite a simple one-stop potentially, which means it's just more about the flat-out racing, wheel-to-wheel out there, and less about what we're doing in the pits. But here around Jeddah, the safety car is not too far away, so that could be a massive, massive spanner in the works. But this is it. One final race here in Season 7. Who is going to win the Drivers' World Championship? Would it be Verstappen in his new team, Ford Performance GP? Will it be myself, finally redemption from last season and getting our third Drivers' World Championship? Will it be the reigning world champion, Giovinazzi, the back-to-back? Or will it be Leclerc or Pierre Gasly to win their first ever Drivers' World Championships, respectively? Whatever is the case, history is about to be written in this alternate F1 universe we've created on F1 2021. Here we go then, for the final time on this game, to 5 red lights, to this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix for one last time. Lights are out, and we're on the way on this game. It's a good start for us versus the pole man, but a lot of wheel spin. Giovinazzi's round the outside, the reigning champion, into turn one, trying to get the lead from Verstappen. We had to try and just tuck in behind. We didn't get the best entry into turn one. It was initially a great start, but then the wheel spin got the better of me. Giovinazzi still trying to maintain this P1, but Verstappen claws it back and gets back into the race lead. But Giovinazzi gave it his all and almost got the lead and was in a pretty commanding, comfortable position there for a second. Meanwhile, Hamilton dives us down the inside in the banking. He's still there on the inside and he's got a great exit. This is very much a new improved Lewis Hamilton in the final few races of this season. Where has he been this entire time as he attacks us? We have to defend with a bit of ERS on the exit there, and that Ford has really got some great traction, it would seem there, and I've just not got too much entry point on the bite-in on the front end in that banking. It was woeful. I just kept turning in there. It was just understeer and understeer, so having to hopefully pray that comes towards us as we go on through this race. Meanwhile, Gasly is defending against George Russell on a big train with Leclerc right in the middle of it. Leclerc, he's P7 there, and he's just been overtaken by Christian Lundgaard. So one of the other title contenders' teammates, Giovinazzi's teammate, is pushing down the current championship leader Leclerc. So doing us all a favour there, Lundgaard is, as Giovinazzi tries to once again take the race lead off Max Verstappen's hands. The two go wheel to wheel. They bang tyres, but Verstappen is going to maintain the lead once again, defending very, very well, I must say there. And meanwhile, the opposite to that, Leclerc is trying to defend, but it will be overtaken potentially again by another car. Yes, Lando Norris in the Vodafone McLaren Mercedes has overtaken Leclerc. He's down to P8 as Gasly is in the pits. We missed that. Gasly must have got damaged somewhere and he's had to make a lap 1 pit stop. He's onto another set of soft tyres, so he was already, a massive shout out of the championship, mathematically still in it, but you have to say it was going to take a miracle, and he's got the opposite of that. It's going to be a 2-stop for Gasly, but he may be a nuisance later on. You never know, though, with that 2-stop in terms of his track position after we've all made our first pit stops. But Leclerc, the championship leader going into this one, is just falling away and crumbling after that poor Australian Grand Prix. Maybe the confidence is low, the momentum, the focus is low for him. Meanwhile, the focus is here with Giovinazzi, and he's only focused on one thing, trying to get P1 off Max Verstappen. Bit of contact made between the two there into the final corner, and they'll open up our chance to overtake our rival from last season, the reigning champ. We're up into P2. Russell set the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so the Ferrari is looking pretty handy behind us as he looks to try and chase after Lewis Hamilton. He has closed up, so the top 5 are near enough nose to tail there as Russell joins the train. We're up into P2 then, and now we've got a great chance of having a go at Max Verstappen for the race lead on lap 3. It's so early in this race, but we can get into the lead and control it from there. That would be ideal, and we have got into the lead. Verstappen defenseless there with no DRS, and Giovinazzi's even sent him down the inside. He may lose 2 positions there. That's how powerful not having DRS is around this circuit. Yeah, when you're in the lead, and case in point, there you go. We get re-overtaken, and we're getting attacked by not only 1, but 2, 3 cars. Verstappen on our inside there, but Giovinazzi and Hamilton were all having their fair sniff around on the outside and inside there. We're going to try and defend against Verstappen, push him a little bit wide, and he has to let off to not go too much off circuit. But we've gone wide. We've gone wide. Verstappen's back down into this very tight sector 1. He gave it a good go. Ultimately, though, we are going to maintain the lead. But how much longer? That Ford is rapid, it would seem, in a straight line with DRS, and we've still not got any because we're still leading into all these detection zones. And Verstappen waltzes round the outside. He almost dances the car round the outside. It's such an unorthodox kind of place to make an overtake in that banking, but he's done it, and he's back into P1. But to be honest, that could be a good place to be for us in P2, because we can get a great tow down this entire section into the final sector. Verstappen slow, and he's going to let us by almost there, as that was a very easy move. I wonder if he's done that on purpose. A bit of a wily or fox move from Verstappen as he now comes back at us with DRS. You've got to say that was probably on purpose there from the Dutchman. But now Giovinazzi's joined, and it's a huge dive bomb from the Italian, kind of copying what he almost did here last season. Remember that huge dive bomb he made at the end of the race to get into the fight with us for the championship. He's done it again. We're 3 wide now with Verstappen and him, and now it's 2 abreast into turns 1 and 2, side by side with Giovinazzi, almost banging tyres as we try and get the lead, but we maintain the P2 then. We're just bouncing around positions, but ultimately, after everything, we're still in P2. But now Giovinazzi is the one that leads the way. Verstappen down to 3rd. Hamilton, you got to say now, he's actually very close and looked like he was nipping at Verstappen's heels a bit. Meanwhile, with all that action, Leclerc, well, he's closed up to this entire train, but he's not had too much pace, you know, going into this race, leading the championship. He has a little look on George Russell there with DRS, but in P6, this is the opposite of what he needs. He needs to be a little bit higher just to limit the damage and limit the points that we're getting on him, because of course I need 4 points to overtake him and win this thing versus him. Obviously Giovinazzi and Verstappen may be in there, and maybe another thing to factor in, and that's why I say the permutations are quite large in terms of the number of ways this could end up. But you know, basically that just means we need to race flat out and try and go for the best position we can, and then we'll just leave it to chance of where everyone else is. And with that, we're going to try and get the race lead. We jockey for position, myself and Giovinazzi side by side once again in the same place we did battle here last season for the championship. Almost banging tyres, so close. I gotta say, it's quite satisfying to be able to get a little bit of revenge and redemption maybe on Giovinazzi today if we can get the championship, having raced him wheel to wheel in this race. Meanwhile, behind us, Lewis Hamilton has just changed the order between the Ford cars. He's ahead of Verstappen in a race where Verstappen needs to be the lead Ford and needs to be, well, winning this race basically to have any chance of winning the championship. He's just been overtaken by Hamilton, so Hamilton's come alive at probably the worst point for Verstappen's sake, and clearly there are no team orders in the Ford Performance team because Lewis is up into P3 looking like his former self from season 1, you gotta say. Meanwhile, brushing the wall nearly, Giovinazzi really wringing the neck out that Lotus Renault to keep up with us, and off this corner, not using ERS initially, that's going to jump Giovinazzi through on the left-hand side. He's going to go for the move there. We're side by side, but the safety car is out, and that will save the day for us in terms of not being overtaken. It's because of Jack Aiken in the BMW. His rear tyre getting sheared off of the banking, and so the safety car is out. That's going to mean all of us come in, because obviously it is a free pit stop. All of us would be aiming for about lap 10 coming in for that one stop, so now it's a few laps earlier, so that will mean we go on to hard tyres, everyone. But this is Giovinazzi being held up in the pits. 3 cars go by the Italian. That is a nightmare for the Lotus team and the Italian, and that will mean that we're through into P4. Hamilton goes through, and there comes Pierre Gasly, and he's ahead of Giovinazzi then, having made a pit stop on lap 1. Gasly's pretty much got a massive undercut on Giovinazzi. Obviously got aided by the fact that Giovinazzi for some reason just got very unluckily held up by 2 Red Bull cars and a Ferrari. But to be honest, we're talking about bad luck. Verstappen had to double stack there with Hamilton, so his day's gone from bad to worse. And the same can be said of Leclerc, because he's ended up in P12, so I don't know what happened there. He must have got held up in the pits as well. So you've got myself, Giovinazzi and Gasly up there in P4, 6 and 7, and then you've got Leclerc and Verstappen in P12 and 13. So it's really not looking good for those two in this first third of the race. We're now going on to the restart. We've got 3 cars ahead of us that have yet to make a pit stop. Matsushita, Armstrong and Lance Stroll in the other Porsche. Can we make an overtake straight away on the BMW into turn 1? Easy does it. You know, the hard tyres are a worse tyre, and even these worn softs will maybe be, able to defend a little bit at us, but we're able to make an opportunistic move, catch him napping a little bit into turn 1. Meanwhile, behind, bit of chaos there with Gasly trying to make some overtakes, but Hamilton is the one that has made the move on the BMW. Gasly getting pinched in a bit. Gasly's on the soft compound. Remember, he made that early pit stop, but in theory, still, even though he's been on those tyres for a while, he should be able to kind of be a nuisance to Hamilton. So I'm hoping, Gasly, let's be real, he's on a 2-stop. I don't think he's going to be in this race. So in terms of, for us, he could actually do us a favour. I don't know if he will, because obviously we've been bitter enemies this season, really, ever since the Hungarian Grand Prix, but he could do us a favour by annoying Hamilton and just giving us some breathing room. Meanwhile, Verstappen and Leclerc are fighting on track for P12 and 13 at the moment. Verstappen gets the better of the man from Monaco, but both of them really need to seriously jump up the order and try and recover their race. But we've got a long way to go still, 15 laps, anything can happen still as we're trying to catch Marcus Armstrong now, although he's in a Williams and he's a bit slower this season because he's got the soft compound. It's been a bit annoying. It's taken this long then to lap 10 in the middle of it to go for a move, and it's going to be a very, very ballsy one there on the right-hand side. I had to lift off almost because I got so scared I was going to get squeezed into the wall by the man in the Williams Jaguar. But we are up into P2, and so the next man will be Lance Stroll, but hopefully he may pit by the time, by the time we even get to him, so we should be able to inherit the race lead then pretty much, in the next lap or two, I would say, because these guys surely are coming in sooner rather than later. But behind us, we've got Gasly versus Hamilton. What did I say? Gasly could annoy Hamilton and do us a favour by giving us a bit of breathing room by fighting Hamilton and, just slowing each other down, basically, and in turn also slowing Giovinazzi down, who is right behind them, and he's watching this squabble. But Gasly has indeed got Hamilton. He is up into P4. Behind, it's fighting going on still. Hammer and tong between Tsunoda, Bottas, Matsushita falling away. Such a slower car, kind of out of sync of everyone, kind of out of position. So he's kind of almost like a mobile chicane, I guess you could say, as Giovinazzi now has a little sniff on the outside of Hamilton, but to no end. Meanwhile, Russell now looking to make a fabulous little overtake on the outside of the BMW. Lovely camera shot to witness that. And Russell is going to try and get up into P9 this will be, and then he can get on to Bottas and Tsunoda. But look at that BMW. This is what I mean by the soft compound versus the hards. Even though that BMW's on worn softs, it's still got a little bit of good grip in the mid-apex versus the hard compound. But he's got the move finally, the Ferrari. Drogovic gets involved as well there in the Mercedes, the monster Mercedes in black and green these days. He's on the outside. It's going to be 2x2 there. Oh, bit of contact potentially in the wall for Verstappen. That was, he tries to squeeze through. Oh, this is so bloody close there. Verstappen and he got squeezed into the wall twice as Stroll does come in and we inherit the race lead. Gasly though is in. He's in for his 2 stop, so that's what I mean by he's kind of out of this race then, but he did us a favour by annoying Hamilton. This is now 4 wide into turn 1. Verstappen goes for the triple overtake, but there's been contact and devastation behind him with that 4 wide ending in a safety car. You could probably see it coming. 4 wide into turn 1 at Jeddah. That was never going to end well, but technically Verstappen did get a triple overtake done. He did it a little bit, a bit of a squeeze on Drogovic, who then got span into the other cars, but that debris then caused a full safety car. So we've had 2 safety cars then in 14 laps. So like I said pre-race, it may be a 1 stop, but the safety cars could change this race a little bit by bunching us up basically, and it gives people like Gasly a bit more of a chance maybe to come back through in this race with that extra pit stop, because we're on hard tyres, they are more durable, but they are going to wear out towards the end of the race. And Gasly, and others maybe who are on fresher tyres, may be able to attack us at the end. We have seen at the end of the races at Jeddah, if you're on fresher tyres, you can almost fly through people. So we'll watch out for that. But here we are then on the restart of this safety car, and we learned from Australia, no funny business of trying to slow down the cars and do anything too clever. We just bolted straight off the last bend and able to get a good exit, but only about half a second then to Hamilton, so he'll keep us honest for sure in that Ford. Giovinazzi as well in P3. I'm sure he'll be sticking with Hamilton as best he can, and they are on to lap 17 now. DRS is activated now on this lap, and Hamilton is well within DRS range. Giovinazzi as well, and then you got a big gaggle of cars, Tsunoda, Bottas, Russell, all fighting ahead of Verstappen and Leclerc, who have quietly gone up to P7 and 8 due to other people making their pit stops finally. So Verstappen and Leclerc, they're back in the points, they're back in the fight a little bit, but ultimately Verstappen needs to be way ahead of all of us, and Leclerc, well, he needs to close up a little bit to try and close and limit that damage, as of course we need to score 4 more points than them today to win the Drivers' Championship. But I think Hamilton and Giovinazzi may have something else to say about that in terms of this race win, because they're lurking around. They're only 3/10 behind me as we go off this left-hander. Hamilton gets a supreme exit. He may have a chance chance of looking through on the left-hand side. We technically don't really need to fight Hamilton, but we want to try and get this race win just to make sure we cover off all bases in terms of point scoring today to make sure we actually get this championship, because I just can't rely on others not getting positions, etc. We need to try and go for the maximum points today, but Hamilton's too quick for us. And here comes Antonio Giovinazzi on the inside. He's trying to make the double overtake. We almost get pinched in the last corner, getting flashbacks from Mexico all over again. PTSD has been down 3 abreast across the line. It's going to be 4 wide with the McLaren of Sonoda in there as well. We're now side by side with Hamilton. Lock up on the front left. Hamilton cuts the curb. Sonoda round the outside comes out of nowhere to get the race lead. We've had a mare on the exit and we've lost traction and lost position to Hamilton and Giovinazzi. We need to recompose. We need to calm down. We've been flustered there a little bit. Giovinazzi and Hamilton, they came flying at us in that last straight before the final bend, and I was pretty much defenseless in terms of without DRS. It wasn't even a case of me wanting to fight Hamilton or not. I had to fight him because he was just breezing past us. And now Bottas in the Red Bull of all people is coming through on the inside here. What's going on? These hard tyres aren't treating us too well, but now we go for the dive on Hamilton, who's looking slow. I wonder, did Hamilton get damaged in all that fighting? Because we've gone down his inside very easily to get back up into P3, and now we can chase after Antonio Giovinazzi. We need to overtake Antonio Giovinazzi. If he beats us today and we're both on the podium, it doesn't matter how far ahead we are of Leclerc, he will win the Drivers' World Championship. So desperate times in the final 7 laps of this race as there's contact with the Ferrari, and Leclerc is round. The Porsche is in the wall, and just like that, the championship leader's chances of taking the victory and seeing home his lead are in tatters, and the safety car is out for the 3rd time. Giovinazzi's in and we've come in because we're going to use this opportunity for a free pit stop. Giovinazzi, he needs to change his front wing, but we're coming in for the soft compounded tyre because with this free pit stop, I am not making the same mistake we made last season. Forget about the engine failure. You will remember last season, even without that engine failure, we were looking pretty vulnerable because our tyre wear was so damn high, and we had Giovinazzi, remember, behind us off a safety car on fresher tyres. This time round, I want to be the one with fresh tyres, and I want to be attacking. And in terms of the way this is going to work out for us, well, Verstappen now is up in P3. He needs to be up there to have any chance of winning the championship. But in terms of my fight now versus just Giovinazzi, because Gasly's out of this thing, Leclerc's out of this thing, versus Giovinazzi, I'm ahead of him, and we're both on fresh tyres. So now, it is all up to me. I need to go out there, chase after the points we need to overtake Leclerc in the championship. So this is all in our hands, and this is the way I'd rather have it. Rather than defending and worrying, I want to be licking my lips and going forward and getting positions to get this championship. So here we go then, 5 racing laps left on F1 2021. Can we get our 3rd Drivers' World Championship? We dive down the inside of the BMW. Remember, these guys are on mediums or hard, so we should have the pace to do this, but we've only got a finite amount of laps left, and Schumacher actually does very well to defend there. The Aston Martin not looking too shabby on the mediums. We were unable to make the dive I thought we could into that left-hander, and of course Sector 1 is very tricky to make a move, and there's such fast, tight, twisting part as Giovinazzi's finding out as he's stuck behind now the BMW. Sainz going for a move on Armstrong. Can we look on the inside of Schumacher? No. We have to be patient because although I'm desperate for these positions, we need to make sure we don't get any damage. We're trying to go for the undercut on Schumacher on the left, but he's defending well, and this Aston Martin is annoying us to no end. Can we get the exit we need here? No, again. We have to lift off to make sure we don't hit the back of Schumacher. Can we get the move, though, into the next left-hander where we got Verstappen before, maybe? On the inside there, Schumacher's slow. Stop behind Armstrong on the inside, side by side, but look at Mick Schumacher. He's fighting us so damn hard. He's in his own race, of course, but there's a championship at stake here, so we're just so desperate, eager to get past them. I'm so thankful we're able to get the exit and finish off the move. Big lock up from us into the last bend as we try and slow the thing down, then accelerate once again. We've got the Red Bull's in. The Red Bull is in. So Sainz pits. It's a free position for us, and then an overtake on the Williams car. We're up into P8 then, so that will be 4 championship points. That'll put us level with Leclerc, but we need one more position to try and get him in the championship. But we need to worry also about where Verstappen is. He's in 3rd place right now. He's right behind Russell and Tsunoda on the podium. If he gets into P2 or P1, that's maybe squeaky bum time. That's maybe worrying times then of not overtaking Leclerc, of what Verstappen's doing. So we need to carry on. One more position on Ilott. That won't actually be enough. We need to carry on and try and get Norris, Ticktum, Guan Yu Zhou, because I don't know where Verstappen's going to finish. We've got 4 laps left, including this one, and you've seen how quick the Ford has been around this circuit. Verstappen got pole. I can't guarantee he's going to stay in 3rd place, so we need to carry on going, and Giovinazzi also understands this. He gets through, gets the move into P9. He may not be able to win this championship. He's, 2 seconds back from us now, but he's determined to try and keep the pressure on me by being the car directly behind me on track. And now with clean air, maybe he might have a good chance of trying to close the gap, because as I catch up to Ilott, maybe I get caught up in fighting them, and then Giovinazzi's there before you know it. But right now, at the moment, we're watching Lando Norris fighting Dan Ticktum, and they're both right behind Guan Yu Zhou in the Williams. All these guys on hard tyres, so they should be cars we can overtake, but it's going to be difficult. You've seen with Ilott and Schumacher, they're putting up a good old fight here in the final ever race of this series as we look to try and go around the outside of Ilott. Meanwhile, there was a close fight between Russell and Tsunoda. Russell trying to get his 2nd ever win of this season, his first 4th Scuderia Ferrari, as we continue to try and get Ilott, and he, just like Schumacher, he's actually putting up so much of a fight. I'm quite surprised and shocked how much of a fight these guys are putting up here in these kind of so-and-so midfield cars versus us. Well, we've got the move. We're into P7, and now we've got a great slingshot onto Ticktum versus Norris versus Guan Yu Zhou. Those two are side by side, and we sense an opportunity to make a huge dive bomb. We bang tyres with Guan Yu Zhou, but in the same way Giovinazzi made that massive dive bomb in Season 6 to help him win the championship, we've made a massive dive bomb to get us up into P5. Meanwhile, Verstappen is attacking Tsunoda. George Russell's got the move on Tsunoda earlier. He's into the lead. The Ferrari leads the race. Russell could win his 2nd race of this season here, but Verstappen is looking to try and get Tsunoda. The two are going to be side by side in Sector 1. Tsunoda, though, will just about get back into 2nd place and do us a favour and take 3 points away from Verstappen, from 18 to 15 points for 3rd place. We need to overtake Norris. I just want to be as safe as possible in this championship fight. I don't want to leave anything to chance, and it's the same for Giovinazzi. He's trying, he's pushing, he's still giving it his all, and he's back up into P6, but again, back directly behind me on track. But with only a lap and a bit to go, and we're looking to get Norris, I don't think Giovinazzi's got a chance anymore of getting this. I think he's out of luck, and I think we are going to get a bit of revenge on him and redemption from last season, because it's going to take an absolute miracle, and it's going to take another engine failure for Giovinazzi to win this thing. But meanwhile, up the road, Verstappen's overtaking Tsunoda. Norris comes back at us then. We could be back down to P5. We can't defend this, but we can. We've got the fresher rubber. We're up into P4 again. Verstappen, though, is in 2nd place. I don't even know what the maths is. I don't know if this is enough. Tsunoda, though, is back down the inside of the banking to get back into P2. The McLaren wants the 2nd step of the podium so badly. Verstappen defends really well. These two have had a great squabble in his last stint, but he's got him. So it's going to be George Russell to win this final race on this series. It's quite fitting, to be fair, that Russell will win the final ever race on this game, because Russell has been the best AI we've come across in terms of as a teammate, as a championship rival. So it's very fitting that he will win the final race on this game in MyTeam career mode. Tsunoda 2nd, but with Verstappen 3rd, we are comfortably got enough here in P4. So as we round the final bend and we come down the final straight in our final ever race on F1 2021 MyTeam career mode, we cross the line to win our third Drivers' World Championship. Redemption has been made from last season. What a way to end off F1 2021.
And with that, another year of Formula One draws to a close, and a new World Drivers' Champion is declared. Another entry added to that prestigious list of the sport's most incredible drivers. Victory today then, but bittersweet emotions, I'm sure, as the championship slips through their fingers. Even so, what a fantastic final race of the season this was. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, they played the safety car to absolute perfection. There are so many factors to worry about once the race is neutralised. I mean, do you pit for fresh rubber? Do you have the space behind you? How much fuel can you save? If you answer all of those questions correctly, you'll have a good chance. And that's exactly what happened today.
Like I said right at the end of that race, a very fitting winner to end off our series on F1 2021. The AI that gave us the toughest fight, I would say, as a teammate and the championship rival, and just generally one of the most consistent AI I've seen on the F1 game. But for us, we didn't get the podium in the final race, but that doesn't matter. We don't care. We don't care because we did enough today to secure our third Drivers' World Championship. Verstappen just couldn't do enough. Giovinazzi, he can do enough. Leclerc bottled it at the end with that spin, and well, Gasly was already kind of out of it, so it all came towards us, and redemption has been made from last season where we had an engine failure in the last couple of laps to lose the championship to the same man that has fought us here right to the end. It's kind of nice that, you know, in the last 2 seasons, it's been myself and Giovinazzi, like I said, for the first time in a long, long while, an AI has actually consistently back-to-back fought me for a championship. So it's quite nice that he will be in second place, 4 points behind me. Verstappen level on points though with Gio, in joint second technically, basically, with Leclerc fourth and Gasly in fifth. In terms of the constructors, of course, we already won the constructors, so we've won 5 constructors titles on this game. As I said, a kind of nod and kudos to our teammates, showing how good the AI teammates have been this season. Ford got second place, Porsche in third, McLaren and actually managed to get Lotus Renault ahead of Red Bull and Ferrari, recovering at the end with the win with George Russell. But that is it. We have won the 3rd title, that 3rd elusive one. It took us so long. You know, it's been the first game, I think, you know, I think this is the least amount of drivers' titles I've ever won in a game cycle, just showing how much more of a challenge they have been this year, and how much more exciting it's been, I guess, as well, because it's you know, it can get a bit dull if I'm winning everything, and that certainly hasn't been the case. It really has not. The AI have won more than me on this game, and that says a lot about the AI on this game. So I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and I enjoyed that last race thoroughly, but I hope you guys enjoyed that final episode of F1 2021 MyTeam career mode. And if you've been here since episode 1, I hope you've enjoyed the entire series. If you have, let me know in the comments below if you've been around from the very start. I really appreciate the support to no end, guys. The fact that you guys, so many of you, buy into the kind of storytelling I try and do in this series, which I think sets this series apart from others. I really appreciate that so many of you buy into that and really get immersed in it along with me. And so, like any good book, we have written the final page. The final chapter has been done. We're going to close the book and we're going to get ready to open a fresh one on F1 22 next week. If you've enjoyed this one though and enjoyed this series, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I guess I'll see you guys on F1 22. Goodbye.